Man, most of the reviews for this thing really aren't very good. Guess I should skip this movie and not review it.
I wouldn't say those things if I were you.
What? Venom? Is that you?
No, it's God. Of course it's me.
How'd you get back in me? I thought I escaped you back there when I was escaping from that bioengineering corporation.
You forget you're wearing a watch, and you know you cannot escape me.
Just why do you keep clinging back onto me?
Because you're gonna take your scrawny ass to the theater and watch the new movie starring me.
I really don't want to see this movie, actually. I don't know what to expect going in. Why should I see it?
Because you're going to give the people what they want and give your opinion on it.
Yeah? Well, you can't make me go. Simple as that.
No problem. Nice legs you have there.
What? What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Venom. By the way, I will be giving details for a giveaway contest I am holding at the end of this video, so you may skip to the indicated time frame to find out more. Based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, the plot of this film basically follows journalist Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy, who, after trying to expose the nefarious doings of a bioengineering corporation, gets infected with an alien symbiote which gives him superpowers and becomes his villainous alter ego known as Venom. Going into this movie, I honestly did not know what to expect. Now, there has been a ton of baggage associated with this movie before, during, and after its production, mainly from hardcore Marvel/Spider-Man fans, making it clear that they are not pleased with a movie starring one of Spider-Man's biggest villains not having Spider-Man himself be seen, heard, or mentioned. Oh my... Holy shit! Wow, that was freaky. My apologies, everyone. I don't know if you can hear right now, but outside where I am, there is a massive thunderstorm occurring, so that was the cause of the temporary blackout that befell on my video. So yeah, it is October after all. Spooky things are happening. But anyway, yeah, hardcore comic book fans have not been pleased with the idea of a Venom movie happening, but without Spider-Man at all. So this is very clear, not just to them, but also to the studio itself behind this film, Sony, that they are trying to make a cinematic universe separate from the one that Disney has made, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in an attempt to compete while making their own films with the free range they have in having the rights to Spider-Man and his characters. So with all of that, it really made me kind of wary to see where this is going. I mean, the lead actor they got to play Venom/Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, I love. He's one of my favorite actors right now. And the director behind this film, Ruben Fleischer, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, I apologize if I butchered that, he's previously made a movie I've really enjoyed, Zombieland. When the reviews started coming out pretty recently, they have been mostly less than positive, which did initially lower my expectations for this film, and I even considered not seeing it at all. But at the same time, too, I also was curious to see what all this talk was about. I mean, one review I saw for this movie even compared it to 2004's Catwoman. Yeah, that movie. Remember, starring Halle Berry in the titular role, that is personally my least favorite comic book / superhero movie ever. And I thought to myself, no movie can be as atrocious as that horrendous piece of fucking shit. So I went into Venom with that sentiment, and me hoping it really wasn't gonna sink down to the level of that film. And going right into the performances, as our title character / Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, I thought was easily one of the brightest spots of Venom. Now, the way he composes himself as this journalist, he really is someone who wants to get the scoop, even though he goes about it through unconventional means. And then, once he does become Venom after getting bound to the alien symbiote, I thought some of the best interplay throughout the movie was given between himself and the alien symbiote Venom, as it gave a lot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vibes, with him literally struggling with this foreign thing inside his body and giving him all of these superpowers. And really, the voice that is given to Venom also added on to him being really snarky and, you know, combating with Eddie Brock as a character, and really seeing them work together. The same can't necessarily be said for the rest of the supporting players, starting with Michelle Williams. Now, she plays the girlfriend and eventual ex-girlfriend of Eddie Brock. I'm not going to spoil why they break up, but I love her as an actress. I love Michelle Williams, but she really isn't given that much to do. There's barely any chemistry between her and Hardy when they're in scenes together. She's given more to do than the typical girlfriend of the protagonist of a comic book or superhero movie, but really there wasn't much there with her character, and I thought she was used in an underwhelming manner. There's also Riz Ahmed as the head of the bioengineering corporation known as the Life Foundation, which, you know, Eddie Brock is trying to take down, as I've said. And he looks bored throughout this film. It looks like he's really coasting through this movie with little care, and it kind of let me down in the sense that Ahmed is a great actor. He really also wasn't given that much of a personality besides being the mustache-twirling evil corporate bad guy that we've seen numerous times in movies like these before, and he's really not given much range to work with besides that, making him a weak villain to say the least. There's also Jenny Slade as an employee of the Life Foundation who does help Eddie try to expose the Life Foundation for all their wrongdoings, and she's decent in the movie despite not having that much to do either. And then there's even Reed Scott as the new boyfriend to Michelle Williams' character, who does have a bit of a substantial supporting role here and there for what he has to offer. I think he had some likability to him, but like some of the other supporting players here, he really didn't have that much to really have me cling on to him, just like the alien symbiote Venom clings on to Eddie Brock, ironically. So aside from Tom Hardy as Venom/Eddie Brock here, the rest of the cast really don't have that much to offer. The writing of this film sets itself up very quickly within the first 2 minutes before the actual title card of the film is seen, and it shows off one of the glaring issues that this movie has. The way this movie pans out within the first act, after we get introduced to our major players and we see the plot set itself in motion, it has a serious problem in the way it shows its scenes and all the transitions with them. The editing of this film is some of the most choppy I've seen in recent memory. This is up there with the likes of Suicide Squad, which I think is one of the worst edited movies I've seen in the last few years. As the way the first act of this movie specifically pans out, not only do some scenes look inconsistent in how they're connected, but the movie, pacing-wise, is a slog to get through, to where we do see Brock trying to expose the Life Foundation for all of the evil deeds they're doing, and when the movie begins, we see this space shuttle crash onto Earth carrying this alien symbiote that the Life Foundation eventually acquires. Yet, we really don't get that much intrigue with the Life Foundation, as it's so bare bones and basic that really it just comes off as being another generic corporate bad guy scheme. Once Eddie Brock gets the Venom symbiote on him, that's when I thought the movie got oddly amusing. Now, making it clear again, this movie is so inconsistently told from its first act. But when it gets to Venom actually being seen and heard for the first time, I was so drawn to this movie that I thought it transcended its goofiness to it being self-aware. I honestly thought this movie was self-aware in that, yeah, it is something so far out there, and it's really going for it. And this also has to do in part with Tom Hardy embracing this really Jim Carrey the Mask-esque performance. The look of Venom himself, when we fully see him, I thought he looked very good. The CGI on him looked pretty well implemented. Now, the CGI throughout this movie I thought was pretty inconsistent as well. Again, Venom himself looks great, and all of the stuff that has him going on to Eddie Brock and the fighting, it looks good. But at times, it looks like this movie was made from the mid-2000s but released into today. Like, at times I felt like this movie was made 15 years ago. This is especially noticeable to me at the very end when it comes to the final battle. It involves two symbiotes fighting each other, and yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really awful, actually. But when it comes to the action and all of that CGI is being implemented along with some of the stunt work and other elements that are used, Ruben Fleischer's direction is here and there as well. The action, though I had fun with it, did have some dodginess to how it is shot. I think the movie overall is decently shot with its cinematography, but sometimes it was a little too shaky to tell what was going on, though the chaotic nature of this movie does fit the Venom character himself in that he is relentlessly cutting up dudes, stabbing them, biting their heads off, and like really making it so far-fetched that I got quite a few laughs with this movie, which goes into the humor of this film. Now, I thought a lot of the humor stemmed from the dialogue and interplay between Brock and Venom themselves. Like, a lot of lines that Venom had inside Brock's head really had me and my audience just guffawing with laughter just for how much of a smartass he is in literally guiding him around the movie. But that also addresses a big issue with the movie in how it's super tonally inconsistent. When there are serious moments attempted, they fall flat. But when there's humorous moments used, you don't know whether to laugh with the movie or at it. But either way, I got a ton of laughs watching this movie, whether it's due to the action, the relationship between Venom and Brock, and just overall what this movie is doing because of how weird it is. This movie runs at about an hour and 52 minutes, which surprised me as I looked at my watch as the end credits were going because I timed it. It's about an hour and a half, an hour and 35 minutes before the end credits start rolling, which was no wonder why I felt this movie run quicker than I thought it did. Aside from the first act being slow, like I said, aside from the first act dragging, this movie ran at a brisk pace in that there was always something going on screen, and it really had me into this movie because it really grabbed me by the throat and threw me into the movie screen to embrace all of the big dumb fun that this movie was having for me. I'm still in shock of how much this movie had me invested with it despite all of the wow, that thunderstorm is something, ain't it? Really needs to stop. But yeah, despite all of the clear major issues I've been having with this movie and been stating throughout this review, I could not help but really be so into it and really finding myself having quite a bit of enjoyability for how this movie really went for itself and being unapologetic with what it is doing. There is a mid-credit scene in this movie that sets up what could possibly happen in the future for this series if it ever gets off the ground. And then at the very end of this movie, after all the credits have shown, this isn't spoiling anything. It's a preview, an extended clip for the upcoming animated movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I'm really excited to see, and my excitement is still pretty high up there after seeing that clip. And I think that actually added on to the padding of this movie's running time as, yeah, like I've said, it's about an hour and a half before the end credits start rolling, and the actual end credits of this movie are pretty long. It's like a 10-minute end credit sequences in between the mid and end credit scene where we see that clip of Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, with all that being said, Venom is a strange anomaly of a movie, if I haven't made it clear by now. The movie's flaws, which there are quite a few big ones, when they do show themselves, they really hamper the movie, such as the editing, the bare-bones plot, the inconsistent tone, its overall ridiculous messiness. But the pros that this movie does have, mainly Tom Hardy, the ridiculous fun that really had me into it more than I thought I would actually have fun with it. And then also just this movie really going for it and embracing its pure, cheesy, corny, all around just goofy attitude that had me quite entertained. This is all coming from somebody who is not a diehard comic book fan, but what this movie is gonna even do for people that see it, it's really gonna go one of two ways, obviously. People are gonna embrace what it goes for, or just still hate it no matter what. Like before this movie came out, fans cried foul that it was PG-13 and not rated R. Tom Hardy himself even said some of his favorite moments of the film didn't make it. About 30 to 40 minutes of footage didn't make it into the movie, and some have said that's what would have made this movie rated R, but the movie, I think, is still violent without all the blood and just other things that would make this movie please comic book fans. Whatever rating the MPAA gives a movie really doesn't dictate its quality. Just like comic book accuracy or it really appealing to all those hardcore fans doesn't dictate a movie's quality, as they do have to reach as wide of an audience as possible. And yeah, unfortunately, this movie really suffers from a lot of what happened behind the scenes, or at least what I assume it happened. So really, it had me going back and forth with this movie, just like Venom going back and forth inside of Eddie Brock, and it literally making me meet this film right at the middle of the spectrum of its quality being meh / mediocre, in my opinion, in terms of it as a film. To put it simply, as Jeremy Johns said in his review, this movie is a good time if you're drunk. In fact, the hot chick that was sitting directly right next to me had an alcoholic beverage while watching this movie, and we saw this thing last night, Thursday night, at a dine-in theater, and I'm 21, so I could have had a drink or two to really amp up the enjoyment that I was already having with this movie for just how balls to the wall crazy and just out there it is. I don't think this movie is as bad as most critics are saying it is. I don't think it's the worst comic book / superhero movie I've ever seen, and I don't even think it's the worst movie I've seen all year in 2018 thus far. That distinction still goes to the Happy Time Murders, as I laughed more times watching Venom than I did for that piece of shit. So that gives Venom a little bit more of an edge there and more respect to an extent as well. And with those of you who are going into this movie already wanting to hate it or just hate watching it just for the sake of hate watching it, just don't. But for those of you who, like me, went into this thing without any sense of what to expect, I'd say if you temper your expectations ever so adjustingly so, I don't think you will be entirely displeased watching this movie, as was the case with me. For all of what I have said and more, as this review has clearly gone on long enough, if you're seeing this movie at all, know what you're getting into. My final verdict for Venom is 2.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, so you've either watched the entirety of this lengthy review or you just skipped to the end because you like free stuff. And who doesn't? As to commemorate the release of Damien Chazelle's next movie, First Man, I will be giving away the digital HD copy code to the film that made him break into mainstream success, Whiplash. One of my absolute favorite movies, not just of 2014, the year it came out, but one of my favorite movies of the decade so far, period. I adore this movie, and I would like to give away a digital copy code for you all, or for one winner specifically. So the rules to this giveaway contest will be familiar to those of you who have entered my contest in the past, and they are as follows. Rule number 1, you must be subscribed to this channel prior to October 14th. Rule number 2, like this video. Simple as that. And rule number 3, leave a comment saying how you would like me to send you the digital copy code if you are the winner. I will leave all of my social media links as per usual in the description of this video to give you an idea of how I can get in contact with you for the digital code after I randomly select the winner. Good luck to everyone. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Venom, social media links in the description, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.